Basically, it's just been a crazy week, has it not? And we see the intolerance and the bigotry in full display from the left. They talk about democracy and all this kind of thing. But when they lose, we see it in its full ugliness. There's an entitled and spoiled generation coming out of campus universities, and they care nothing for law many of the time. I saw one person who was going I'm not saying all the protesters are in any way, shape, or form violent or anything like that. They're not. Some of them are peaceful. But it's a democratic election. The result is in. What do you want to do? Change that? I know people talk about popular vote and all this. The Electoral College is there for a reason. Maybe people need to study that, because the whole point of the Electoral College is, very, very simply, is they don't want, just say LA and New York have much bigger populations than other states. They don't want smaller states being governed. I suppose like Georgia's maybe got a small population. Not too sure off the top of my head. But they don't want the bigger smaller states having a tiny or insignificant or zero voice at all. So it was for that it was a states' rights issue. So you have to realize it's the United States of America. It's not like there's different laws in each state. And one biggest problem, this is the biggest single problem I have with the whole amount of coverage. And even, I'm Irish, I'm living in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, just south of the border with Northern Ireland. And one of the biggest problems I have is the Johnny-come-latelys, the people who have never followed the election. I've followed the election for the last 2 years, commented on it briefly here and there. I've done some shows on it, but nothing too in depth. I've done a fair bit of research on Hillary Clinton and things like that, and her criminal empire, and the whole Clinton crime family. But the Johnny-come-latelys, everyone's an expert coming out of the closet when they've never shown the slightest bit of interest. And this is the biggest, I've noticed it in Ireland. I don't know if people are noticing anywhere else, but it's like people are engrossed in their favorite TV show, couldn't be bothered about anything else. And then when a guy on the opposite side they don't like is elected, it goes crazy. The bubble has been popped, and they can't go on and play computer games anymore. Okay, it's a bit of a stereotype, I know. But there's a bunch of children now who are called adults. We are living in a really sad generation. And it has led to the crybabiness of the social justice warrior movement. And people wonder what a social justice warrior is. You know, it might be a feminist screaming about patriarchy and a big conspiracy. It's funny, the left can come out with all the crazy conspiracy theories at once, but any issue of documented conspiracies, completely ignore. And that's the biggest problem I have. I don't have not everybody has to be an expert on U.S. politics or any politics in any nation around the world. It's the most powerful nation on earth. It's hugely influential in many different countries, especially here. But when the argument is this, that I would never have voted for Donald Trump. I would have never voted for Donald Trump. Couldn't. My view is in conformity with a lot of people who would have come before me, who are known as Covenanters in Scotland and also in Ireland when they came over and planted a sister denomination, the Reformed Presbyterian Church of Ireland, basically is this. If a man needs to bow the knee to Christ Jesus, or I'm not voting for him. That's a very simplified version of the doctrine. But he must bow the knee to Jesus Christ and promote the true Reformed religion. You might say that's never going to happen. I'm not a pragmatist. The Lord is in control of all things. Regardless of what will or will not come, I am to obey him. And rulers, what's the qualification of rulers? Romans 13, I've gone through it in various different shows before. Psalm 2, about rulers, kings kiss the Son, which is basically worship him, adore him, bow the knee before him, and seek his face. That is the qualification for office, to be wise and wise in the eyes of the Lord, things like that. Donald Trump is certainly not that. Hillary Clinton is a career criminal. She should be in prison. I don't really delve into a lot of these issues on the show, but it's just such a crystal clear issue. So we're living in very interesting times. The rise, look, it's the hatred of God. But whoever's in power, unless the nation turns to Christ and to Christ alone, unless it will do as the Solemn League and Covenant of the Presbyterians and the Reformers in England and in Scotland and in Ireland. There were 3 different countries at the time. Wales was still a Principality of England. But the nations which today are known as the Republic of Ireland is not part of the United Kingdom, but the British Isles, as the British Isles did in the 1640s in Westminster. Eventually it was the Westminster Confession of Faith and things like that. But if you have time, read the Solemn League and Covenant, the promotion of true Reformed religion. That is what me, as a post-millennialist, and the Puritans and other people as well, to this day, many preachers in Scotland are still post-millennial. The vast majority of Christians in the 19th century and prior to that and after the Reformation were post-millennialists. Not all, but most were. That the nations would come into covenantal fellowship. Now, it depends on your view of covenant theology. If you've got a kind of a Baptistic covenant theology, this won't make a lot of sense to you. But I would recommend maybe watch or listen to those shows that I've done on infant baptism and things like that, and other such issues on covenant theology. That the nation covenants with God to serve Him. These islands have done that. Now, every nation is required to do that anyway, but the thing about it is, in the British Isles, we're even more responsible because we said that we would.